MrBeast has just been exposed in a viral video and it is getting bad.
This train track is CGI, these bus wheels are CGI, this explosion is fake, this shredder is CGI, this car is digitally lifted, this pit is fake, this guy is fake, this raccoon is a paid actor.
Because it's one of those situations that just keeps evolving to the point where, you know, what comes out the next day is infinitely more wilder than what came out a day ago.
Everyone who participated in an illegal lottery needs to have right done by them.
And it doesn't stop there. There are claims that MrBeast's frequent giveaways are actually illegal lotteries, and that MrBeast contests run afoul of federal anti-rigging laws.
Jimmy is not the same person that he is on camera as he is off camera.
He's wearing a mask. Why would you wear a mask? Why would you conceal your face? It's like, what are you concealing? That you are a registered sex offender? And that your face could be looked up on a thing? How much more can you literally cover up a sex offender?
Are you gonna sue Dogpack? Well...
So a few days ago, I uploaded a video covering a video that Soggy Cereal made debunking videos that Dogpack 404 made, accusing MrBeast of blah, 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 blah. I mean, you guys already know, okay, the MrBeast allegations have been the biggest, longest running, and most confusing YouTube drama in the history of YouTube. I literally cannot think of a more contentious, insane, crazy series of twists and turns for my entire time making YouTube videos about YouTube drama, frankly. But basically what you need to know is that MrBeast is the most popular YouTuber of all time. Some very serious allegations were levied at him, starting with Chris Tyson. And Chris Tyson was his longtime friend of 10 years, basically, that was in his videos from the very beginning, that ended up having some serious gooning group chats leaked where Chris was having very inappropriate conversations where minors were present. Chris is also a fan of an artist named Shadman, very controversial artist who draws underage characters in very compromising positions. Not a good guy, kind of twisted and evil, kind of weird even, some may say. Some would say it's weird. I would say we need to do something. I would say we need to do something. And as a result of the Chris Tyson expose, Dogpack 404, a former employee of MrBeast, then came out with a series of videos with different allegations about MrBeast. Now, Soggy's video in present day has extensively debunked several claims that Dogpack had made, and it pretty much made him look like a very spiteful, deranged person that didn't seem to really care about the truth and what the truth was, didn't care about bringing MrBeast to justice, and rather wanted to just take him down a peg because he had a personal vendetta against him because he was fired. And the thing is, a lot of these criticisms about Dogpack 404 had been out there for a long time. Creators like myself and a lot of others had talked about it, and we were basically being gaslit to an extent into believing that this is all bullshit and there weren't actually any real problems with the investigation. On this topic, a lot of the audience, I'm gonna say it, has been straight up retarded. Even if Dogpack's intentions from the beginning were good, ultimately it led to a lot of misinformation being spread. But all of this is not to discount Soggy Cereal, because his video, some of the stuff that he leaked, no one could have possibly predicted how insane some of it would be, truly. My favorite is probably the now infamous leaked audio of Dogpack begging not to get fired from the MrBeast company and then turning into like Syndrome from The Incredibles. Like it's actually insane how petty this revenge plot was from the beginning.
You're pushing back on everything that we're saying. So
Well, because you're trying to fire me, and I want to work at this company.
I'm the CEO of this company. If I'm talking, don't interrupt.
I've been trying to get to this point of working on MrBeast for a long time. Can I please have a second chance?
With that being said, Soggy's video is not completely bulletproof, and he did end up getting some stuff wrong and leaving things out. For example, he defended MrBeast for hiring a convicted sex offender, saying that MrBeast didn't know, which is very possible, but at the same time, he did not acknowledge the fact that Chris Tyson, who is MrBeast's longtime friend and a big star on the channel, was friends with Delaware prior to Delaware being hired, Delaware being the registered sex offender. The whole story about LaCoya Hill, the COO of the company, who had some allegations made about him internally and was then shuffled around to a different company before brought back to the MrBeast company, was also basically confirmed by the Soggy Cereal video. At least the idea that there were allegations of sexual misconduct and the fact that the guy was shuffled around between companies before brought back to MrBeast Co. proper. And of course, it also has to be mentioned that this wasn't a totally independent video that Soggy made. He had the permission to interview multiple MrBeast employees who otherwise would be under NDA and not able to discuss the information they wanted in his video, and they were given that approval by, of course, MrBeast himself. Now, right around the same time that this Soggy video came out, more allegations about MrBeast were also released. Specifically, the crypto investigator guru of YouTube, CoffeeZilla, made a video investigating some alleged crypto scams that he was involved in with some others, but overall the video wasn't definitive proof of anything, and even Coffee said that. As he said in the video, the conclusion you come to in regards to the crypto stuff will ultimately depend on if you like MrBeast or not, because there's a lot of missing information with some serious blanks to fill in there. But overall, the majority of Soggy's video had a lot of good information. It disproved a lot of what was previously thought to be true about MrBeast from the Dogpack videos. And what's also important to keep in mind is that in his own video, Soggy did state outright outright several times that he doesn't see this as vindication for MrBeast. He doesn't want to help MrBeast necessarily. He just wants to disprove the false claims that Dogpack made. But despite that, MrBeast seemingly liked the video a lot. He left a comment on it. And on top of that, several commentary creators like myself were also messaged this video directly by MrBeast when he was like, hey, watch this video. It disproves a lot of these allegations. And Soggy ended up taking a big issue with Mr. Breast messaging commentary people, and he ended up making a whole thread on Twitter essentially saying that he felt gross and used by MrBeast. Now, at the end of my previous breast milk video, I speculated that if MrBeast was reaching out to several commentary people and he was offering more Pegasus an interview and then pulling out at a different point of time, clearly some kind of interview was about to come out, and sure enough, that interview did actually drop, and it's from a friend of the channel, Oompaville. Wow, isn't that just incredible? I mean, it's almost like I knew ahead of time he was going to interview MrBeast, okay? Yet another 200 IQ foresight prediction from me in the bag, okay? Sometimes I even impress myself. But anyway, let's get into what I know all of you are thinking right now, what you're begging for. Did MrBeast save his reputation? Will he be able to crawl out of the pits of despair, or is this the final nail in the Beast Co. coffin, solidifying the end of the MrBeast empire? Will Mr. Breast be executed in the street by Roman legionnaires? And most importantly, when is my next collaboration with Chris? Well, all of these questions and more will be answered today as we dig into the official MrBeast response to the allegations. One of the things they do before the actual interview starts is Oompaville has Jimmy swear on a Bible because they're both from the South, I guess. The only issue is Jimmy doesn't actually swear on the Bible, okay? He just kind of puts his hand on it, and then they both quip about how they're from the Bible Belt, okay? You got to say your vows if you swear on a Bible, MrBeast. This is a court of law. Literally everyone knows this, okay? Everyone.
Firstly, would you be willing to put your hand on this Bible and swear?
Oh my gosh, you actually have a Bible?
I have 2 Bibles.
Are you being serious?
I am being serious.
Okay.
I'm swear. We're both from the South. This will be an honest video.
Oh, your laptop's blocking it.
Oh, whoops. This will be an honest video. You're a man from North Carolina. I'm from Virginia.
The Bible Belt.
The Bible Belt.
Yep.
Exactly.
I know what this means.
This means it's legit.
Yes. Okay.
There we go.
I was not expecting that.
But one of the first questions that Oompa asks Jimmy is why he stayed silent for so long on these allegations, which is obviously something that's been on a lot of people's minds because, you know, in a situation like this, if you don't respond for a week or two, people will be like, all right, maybe he's still working on a response. But when you don't respond for weeks and weeks and what turned into ultimately 4 months for MrBeast, people start to really question, like, is something going on here? Is he hiding something? Is he not responding because he knows that he's in the wrong? Well, what Jimmy says is that initially when the Chris Tyson allegations dropped, he ended up paying a third-party law firm for a full investigation, which we already knew from his initial tweet about these allegations when he said that Chris was removed from the company and he would be having a third-party investigation done, which does appear to have happened. And according to him, this law firm that was investigating him basically said that he should refrain from making any public comment during the investigation so as not to tangle things up in the public eye. But if true, that's obviously very unfortunate timing for him because right after the investigation started, the first video by Dogpack 404 dropped, and then the drama just starts snowballing from there. Now, Oompaville also provided further context to the situation with a Google Doc in the description, which contained an email from this third-party law firm, which seems to confirm that this is the case. As an initial matter, to protect the investigation's integrity, on July 31st, 2024, Quinn Emanuel requested that current employees refrain from public comments to ensure the investigation yielded accurate information and the witnesses were not tainted. The intent was to foster candid interviews and complete cooperations with the investigatory process.
Yeah, if I could go back in time, I would do what we're doing here because I assume this is like the correct format. It's going to be a little bit more free-flowing and natural, and I wouldn't have wasted so much time like trying to do a response. It's just not my thing. I like so much better, or I'm assuming. I mean, we just started, but I think I'm going to like so much better being asked the questions and answer it instead of just like sitting in a chair like this answering it. It just feels a little more natural.
Now, Jimmy then acknowledges that his decision to stay silent here while being investigated really ended up biting him in the ass in the long term, particularly because in his words, a lot of disinformation was able to be spread after the Dogpack video dropped while he just had to sit there in the cuck chair and not say anything about it. The most interesting thing he says here is that he messaged several content creators telling them that some of what they were saying about him was blatantly incorrect, and one of them apparently said, yeah, I know, but I can't say anything positive about you because it's too unpopular to defend you.
I even sent that to a couple of YouTubers. I was like, hey, just so you know, like, I didn't call him Delaware because of this messed up thing. Like, that was just his name, and here's proof. And I guess I probably shouldn't say the name of the creators, but like one of them literally just said to me, like, well, it's not really cool to like you or defend you right now, so I don't really care whether or not it's true, or I don't want to take the video down because then people are gonna think I'm controlled opposition. I was like, whoa.
Now, Jimmy does not provide any receipts for this because he says he doesn't want to say their name. But if that is true, that is absolutely fucking insane, especially if that content creator he's talking about has a massive audience. I would love to know who that is. Now, Jimmy also specifically called out some of my biggest fans over on the r/YouTube drama subreddit. Specifically, he called out their moderation team for taking down any kind of positive post about him or taking down any information that may have contradicted Dogpack's narrative, which is a little bit cathartic to hear, okay? As somebody who's been slandered by that subreddit a few times, it's good to see.
Right after that second Dogpack video started to get traction on Reddit and saying like, hey, this is a lie. Jimmy didn't call him Delaware to make fun of him, you know, committing a crime in Delaware. That's just his name. And it got taken down by the mods on r/YouTube drama. And that's when I realized like, oh, anytime there's a post proving like that I'm not evil, they were taking it down.
Like, that place is an absolute shithole, and it is so comically biased that it's laughable. Even before the MrBeast interview dropped, there was a post with 1.5 thousand upvotes titled, "No matter what MrBeast says, I don't trust anything that comes out of his mouth because he chooses to work with a fully confirmed crypto scammer and scumbag like Logan Paul." Like, to be clear, Logan Paul is a cringe lord, and I don't like that MrBeast works with him. But there are a lot of allegations made about him that are unrelated to anything having to do with Logan Paul or KSI or CryptoZoo or Lunchly. Realistically, a lot of these allegations exist in isolation. You have to be willing to accept some kind of explanation for at least some of these things, right? This subreddit is like a collective group of babies plugging their ears whenever they hear something they don't like. It's extremely gay. Now, MrBeast actually went so hard in the paint against this subreddit that he even provided several screenshots of blatant mod corruption in the doc, and currently the sub is having a full-blown meltdown, which brings a smile to my face personally, okay? Let it die.
Let them die.
Now, despite being investigated by a third-party law firm, one big meme that got popular during this time period after Jimmy posted about the investigation having concluded is this idea that MrBeast investigated himself and he was found not guilty, basically saying that whatever company he hired was somehow biased because they were the ones reaching out to them, which is, frankly, kind of dumb. For a little bit of clarity here, MrBeast explains how the law firm that they hired, Quinn Emanuel, is one of the biggest groups of trial lawyers in the world. Like, their entire reputation is on how decisive they are and how thorough they are and how they are legally obligated to bring up anything they find illegal in the investigation and report it to the police. Like, they would be aiding and abetting in a crime if they didn't report anything that they found that MrBeast was doing to be illegal and, you know, didn't report it. So obviously it's kind of silly, the idea that this third-party investigation is biased towards MrBeast.
If they found anything illegal, they're obligated to report it to the police. Like,
Right.
this like, that's how these things work when they do these investigations. It's not like they could be like, hey Jimmy, we found this illegal thing. We'll just sweep it on the rug.
But it's all right, because you paid us.
Now, Ubaville then clarifies that he hasn't signed any sort of document or NDA, so he can talk about anything from this interview as much as he wants.
Also, to be clear as well, I have not signed, like, an NDA or...
Fuck.
I mean... there's genuinely nothing that's been signed. You haven't given me $1 million.
No.
It might not seem like the biggest deal, but I think to me, at the very least, it does demonstrate that Jimmy wanted this to be a raw dog interview where he addresses everything and is not sweeping things under the rug, at least on the surface. A willingness to be transparent and honest is good, and to me, it kind of shows that Ubaville is not necessarily some kind of controlled opposition or anything. He is, you know, at the very least, able to ask all the questions that he wants in this interview. Now, another thing that people were criticizing MrBeast for was this idea that his mother, Sue, was the head of the Human Resources Department at one point in time. I criticized him for that, for it being a huge conflict of interest for his own mother to be the head of human resources, and I think obviously that's a valid criticism. But the context that Jimmy adds here, his explanation, is that the company he has now is massively different from the company he had when he made his mom the head of HR. It's essentially the difference between a scrappy group of random people he basically found on the street to help him with videos, like people he knew from high school he was just hiring, he was a 20-year-old kid, to where it is now when he's 26. He's running a 400+ person massive company, massive entity, right? So back in the day when he was a teenager, the company he had could barely be called a company by the standards it is now. So his mother did do human resources for the company, but on top of that, she also did accounting for them. She did basic financial stuff because realistically, big surprise, MrBeast has no idea how to do taxes. And ultimately, she was just filling all those roles, at least according to him. And we don't have any evidence to the contrary. Obviously, she's not the head of HR anymore.
I mean, I wouldn't say she's head of HR. I mean, she was, I guess, but she's also running finance, and you know, it's not like a real company. We just get in this like little $700 or no, actually that one was $1,080 a month office I was renting, and I'd just be like to this one guy that I knew from high school, all right, today you're gonna go paint this thing. Today, you friend number 2, you're gonna like help me edit this, and you friend number 3, you're gonna go to the store and buy 1,000 chickens that like scream when you press down on them. And mom, I don't know, just make sure the IRS doesn't sue me. Like that's the time frame we're talking about here. But yes, I I agree. Like, it's stupid. Like, you definitely shouldn't have your mom as an HR person. You should just hire someone who was educated in HR, which is obviously what we have. We have an HR team now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree.
I think on this particular point, until I see evidence of otherwise, I think it is fair to say that this conflict of interest, if you want to call it that, is ultimately a result of growing pains from a teenage MrBeast still learning the ropes of having a company at all, because now they do have a proper HR department that deals with these things. Now, next they address this no doesn't mean no line. The no doesn't mean no thing is a quote from a How to Succeed in MrBeast Production document that ended up getting leaked, and it became pretty infamous because a lot of people, when this came out, were basically implying that MrBeast is saying here that rape is okay or sexual assault is okay because of this line. The problem with that narrative being that the line was completely taken out of context, and instead it's not about anything relating to, you know, relations between people as far as like sex stuff go, right? Instead, it's more of a salesman slogan of no doesn't mean no, which is basically the MO for people in sales, right? The idea is that anytime someone says no, it's a new opportunity to close because you want to endlessly pursue whatever avenue you have to get the person to buy a car or something like that, right? And this is already explained in the initial document, but people kind of ran with that one quote anyway. They just completely took it out of context. So realistically, I think this is a decent explanation from Jimmy. He basically explains that no doesn't mean no is not in regards to, as bad as it sounds, it's not in regards to anything really horrible. Instead, it's a mentality that was adopted because of all the insane shit they do in videos, like burying people alive, dangling obstacle courses from cranes, stuff like that. And essentially, the no means no thing was just a message to employees that like, hey, we want to exhaust every single possible avenue to get these videos done that we can.
The problem I kept running into early on when I was hiring people is I'd be like, hey, I want to do this. And then they would go call someone. So like, let's say the obstacle course in the sky, where we had like this obstacle courses that Mac did, held up by these cranes, weighed like 100,000 pounds or whatever. Like, they would call crane companies and they'd be like, no. And then they'd be like, okay, hang up. And they'd come to me and they'd go, Jimmy, they said, no, we can't do it. The video's not possible. And it's like, okay, well, of course they're going to say no, because everything we do has never been done before. But like, ask them why.
I guarantee you, if he said something in this document like advocate for yourself or go the extra mile, this wouldn't be as overblown as it is. But because people associate no doesn't mean no with consent, gay, obviously this makes him look very bad without context. But with context in the initial document and with his explanation, which basically just reiterates that, we can obviously see that it wasn't some kind of malicious evil thing. Now, another thing that Dogpack criticized MrBeast for was for faking his videos, right? This idea that computer generated graphics are being used for certain scenes when MrBeast is claiming that this actually real. And a lot of this was debunked in the Soggy Cereal video, but MrBeast's response to this is basically saying that in any scenario, only about like 0.5% of a shot in the video is actually enhanced cosmetically with computer graphics to make it look better. But in actuality, the stuff is not really faked. As just one example out of many, Dogpack claimed that an explosion that was inside of a MrBeast video was fake, but in this new video, through the document linked in the description, Jimmy actually shared the raw footage of the video, proving that the explosion was real. Now, another CGI allegation that was made here is this idea that they use CGI to deceive viewers into thinking that the MrBeast charity built a hospital for people who needed one when they actually didn't build it. Now, Jimmy's explanation is that this was a dumb mistake and he didn't want to deceive anyone directly.
At the start of one of our Beast Philanthropy videos, they were trying to show what this like building looked like in the past, and in the past that hospital wasn't there, so they removed it in the editing. Which and this was just like a small part of it. This isn't even like the point of the video was that we built this hospital or whatever. There was just a shot at the beginning, but some people saw that and like thought we did build it, which is not the intention, and so it's just a dumb mistake. Like, trust me, when I saw that, I talked to the editors. I was like, come on, like, you know, I have 100 editors, and obviously we have a bunch of different channels and things like that, so it's hard for me to like speak with all of them, but it was just truthfully a silly mistake. But we never said we built that hospital or anything.
Now, people had also pointed out that in the 100 boys versus 100 girls video that MrBeast released, he had some of his employees and even his girlfriend competing in it, leading many to believe that he was essentially rigging the competition in their favor, or that these competitions were all fake. Now, MrBeast's explanation here is that they were indeed competing in this video, but it wasn't something that he was trying to hide. And his piece of supporting evidence for this is that years prior to these allegations coming out, his own girlfriend had gone on a podcast talking about how she competed in the video. The reason they had to use employees and his girlfriend was that they shot the video during COVID, and some of the people that were supposed to be contestants tested positive. Keep in mind, this was during the peak of the pandemic where everyone needed to extensively be quarantined and tested, and everyone was wearing masks. So they couldn't just pick some random person off the street. They had to pick from their pool of certified, verified American patriots. According to him, everyone who didn't have COVID already had taken a week off of work, and so Jimmy, not wanting to scrap the entire video, went into his office and basically said, which of my employees want to be in this video, and his girlfriend happened to be one of those people who he also got in.
No, they were not there to rig it. I did not tell them when to get out. I did not tell them what to do. They had their own free will. And yeah, I really didn't think too much of it. And, you know, here we are a couple years later, and that's turning into proof that I put employees in videos to rig them and script them. And They're just filling in for some people who got COVID.
Now, running illegal lotteries is also something that Dogpack accused MrBeast of, and that was a really big deal, right? This idea that MrBeast is running illegal giveaways that are ultimately not disclosing fully to everyone the terms and conditions of them, and not including the fact that you can enter for free. This was a huge deal from the Dogpack video. Now, when Soggy Cereal responded recently, he managed to disprove 2 of the 3 illegal lotteries, but according to him, actually one of them were still illegal. But as he does note with a case like Captain Sparkles, most YouTubers at the time didn't even know you could do an illegal lottery. They thought they were just doing a giveaway and there weren't any ethical concerns with it.
Which, on my flight back, I finally found some proof that the first illegal lottery was in fact illegal. There was no purchase necessary in the description, no mention of it at all. Yeah, it was illegal. And personally, Jimmy has to own up for it. Either by donating the amount of profit he made in that live stream to a charity, or by refunding everyone who bought a shirt in that stream, but that's like so many years ago, so I don't know if that's a possibility. Or do a giveaway live stream where everything is given away for free, with no merch sales attached. However, I do also want to note that most YouTubers, including me, didn't know that you could do something like an illegal lottery.
Now, MrBeast in this interview claims that he still has people looking into this situation. He doesn't know if it was illegal or not, but according to his own words and his opinion, he does not think he did any kind of illegal lottery, and he doesn't want to speculate on that. No matter what, though, he does say that if anyone took part in these giveaways and feel like they got cheated or scammed, they have a full ability to put in a refund request in the document link below to get their money back from this situation. Now, I think that philanthropy is another big point that people use against MrBeast, basically saying that this is like a shield from criticism, and like, I understand the sort of weird feeling you get when you see someone publicly doing charity work and it gets a lot of attention on it and it makes them look good. But at the end of the day, my argument has always been, well, even if it does make him look good, he's still doing the charity. And realistically, those charities weren't really able to save him from these controversies that have befallen him in the past few months, right? It didn't really serve as a great deterrent, did it? Like, even if somehow MrBeast was using the fact he's doing charity to negate his critics, it doesn't discount the fact that he's still doing charity. Would I like him to be like, oh, all these people are fucking haters? No, but he hasn't really said that. He's still doing charity. And at this point, he's not calling people who criticize him haters or calling them retarded or completely wrong at all points of time. He's doing an interview about it and responding to the allegations, which I think is good. Now, there are also several claims made saying that his philanthropy stuff is fake, with examples being the eye surgeries, the hearing aids, the 100 wells he built in Africa, etc., all of which he's able to disprove pretty accurately, beyond a shadow of a doubt, in the document, showing that he actually did do all these charitable acts and he wasn't just faking it, which would be a crazy thing to fake. Now, another weird thing I see from people when talking about MrBeast doing charity work is that the only reason he does it is for a tax write-off, which doesn't really make any sense. I think a lot of people don't actually know what a tax write-off is, and they basically think it means the government reimburses you for money you spend. Like, you just spend money and the government sends it back to you, and like, it's free money. Like, people have this misconception, but that's really not how it works. And the only reason I know this is because I have to do tax write-offs for my business, because I have to pay people to help me run my various channels. So for a quick little explanation, basically the way it works is, let's say you make $100,000 in profit in a year, but to get to that $100,000, you had to spend $10,000. Essentially, what a tax write-off is the government recognizes, okay, out of the $100,000 in profit, actually $90,000 of it are actually profit, and that $10,000 was spent on running the business. Therefore, the government's only going to tax you on money you actually made, as long as you inform them of your expenses. But that doesn't mean you get to magically keep the $10,000. And if you think that he's just doing the charity for a tax write-off, I mean, that's just retarded. Like, MrBeast could just make another YouTube channel and spend a little bit of money on it, and it would blow up and make a bunch of money, and he would easily offset the amount he's saving from these charitable donations by just having that other channel, right? That's an obvious explanation. Like, the amount of money he donates to charity is too much for it to be so convenient as a tax write-off. And in the case of MrBeast with this charitable stuff, it's even more of a loss, because usually when people spend money on business expenses, they're at least getting something out of it, like utilities, insurance, advertising. In the YouTube case, right? Like, when I'm paying people, what I'm getting out of paying people on a tax write-off or whatever is going to be like video editing work or research work or something like that, right? But in MrBeast's case, the money just leaves his account. Like, it just goes out into the ether to people who need it. So when you hear people say things like, this guy just does charity for tax write-offs, call them retarded, and then be sure to get them to use code TOM for 10% off at gamersubs.gg, gamersubs.gg/Tom, base mode. But Tom, Feastables uses slave labor, so charity doesn't even matter. Don't speak too soon, my sweet, sweet summer child, because Jimmy also addresses this. Basically, there were a lot of people claiming that Feastables was now using slave labor because they removed the slave-free branding from their website. And not only does MrBeast say this is not true, but he also goes into extreme detail about how he personally went above and beyond in ensuring that not only is the cocoa they make not created by child slaves, but also that the people making it were paid an extra livable wage by his company. And this is evident from the fact that MrBeast works with Tony's Chocolonely, whatever the fuck they are. They're one of these companies that is very heavy on their branding of using slave-free cocoa, right? Cocoa that's ethically sourced. And that's who he partners with. That is who helps him make the chocolate. So realistically speaking, there's no real reason to believe that MrBeast is using child labor on his chocolate. And once again, he's able to show evidence of this in this document.
I've been over there. I've worked on these farms, literally. I mean, I could probably send you a video if you want to throw it up on screen so it's not just hearsay. But I mean, I didn't film this stuff for this. I just did it because I really wanted to know. And I mean, this is something I was working on, I mean, sometimes 4 or 5 hours a day for like months straight, like 4 or 5 months, like, because I really wanted to make sure we are ethically sourced and we have the best people in the world working on it.
Now, one of the bigger controversies that I've covered around MrBeast on this channel is regarding the Amazon game show allegations. Basically, there were a number of reports coming out during the launch of MrBeast's new Amazon series, Beast Games, of contestants being treated very poorly. Contestants not receiving food on time, not receiving medications on time, women not being given access to feminine hygiene products, stuff like that. There were also a lot of other allegations that I didn't cover so much, but basically a lot of people claiming that there were like a ton of broken bones on set and there was like all this chaos and mayhem. Unfortunately, we didn't get a very good in-depth response from MrBeast here. He basically says like there's ongoing litigation, so he can't say too much about it because he's currently being sued by some of the contestants, so he can't really go out on a limb and talk about that publicly yet until the lawsuit is concluded. But a few things he doesn't point out are that, you know, firstly, it is kind of a he said, she said situation. We don't have evidence of a lot of this. And secondly, once again, it's an ongoing legal case. Him commenting on it now would be kind of dumb. But I would still like to see some kind of response in the future to this, because I think that some of the claims being made about that shit, if you remember my videos about that, were very, very, very not good. Not good look. It's a bad look.
So for context, if people have 5 anonymous Beast Game employees, or not employees, 5 anonymous Beast Game contestants submitted a lawsuit, and they sent it to the press, but conveniently all the actual claims are redacted, blacked out, so you can't actually see it. And I'm not allowed to disclose what's behind those black lines.
Now, finally, to end this segment, a massive thing MrBeast hints at is that he could potentially be suing Dogpack in the future.
Are you going to sue Dogpack?
Well, you know, there's tons of examples of him intentionally manipulating things to not be true and posting it online. Tons and tons and tons of that. Soggy has basically an hour and 27-minute video, and an hour of it is just flat out proving manipulation and lies, and caused a lot of harm to my businesses. I mean, I've literally had people pull out millions of dollars and then tell me it was directly because of his video. And don't worry, I instantly was like, can you send that in writing? So, you know, if I win a case or anything, I can directly point damages. No reason why. And so, I mean, it's just unfortunate. Like, I don't want to be put in this situation, but probably gonna have to. I mean, it's just, I mean, what do you do if someone's just spreading misinformation about you and, you know, just causing harm to your business and like getting it to the point where you might have to potentially fire people because it's costing you so much revenue? It's like, it's not fair to the people in my companies. You know what I mean? It's just sad, you know. It's not a thing I take joy in, but
right. Yeah. So, okay. So, yes.
They're not done drafting it up, but once they're done, more than likely, yeah.
Okay.
Now, 9 out of 10 times when it comes to suing someone over a YouTube video, it's almost always retarded. But in this case, it may actually be somewhat fair. I mean, as he says, Dogpack's videos are such clear-cut cases of defamation that have massively affected his brand, his business, affected the charities. So he claims his lawyers think he has like a slam dunk case. I'm not a lawyer, obviously, so I don't really know. But from what I've read about defamation law, it seems to me that Dogpack did knowingly lie about several of the things in his videos. And therefore, it's very possible that MrBeast could have a very successful lawsuit against him if he wanted to, but it remains to be seen if that actually happens. Now we have to get into stuff that I feel like could have been handled better, or stuff that I still frankly want more answers for in regards to all of this. One of the biggest things that Jimmy did not address in this interview, and something that Oompaville didn't really even ask him about, was in regards to LaQuoya Hill and James Warren. Basically, MrBeast's company apparently received reports of sexual misconduct related to LaQuoya Hill, their COO at the time. A third-party investigation was then conducted, and subsequently they transferred LaQuoya to Unilingo, which was a separate company, before the alleged victim ended up quitting the main MrBeast company, and LaQuoya Hill was then moved back. Although the details of this investigation remain unclear.
We said, hey, you won't have to see LaQuoya again. We're gonna move him completely out. It wasn't a secret. We moved him to a new company idea that we had. He was the only person in that company. He wasn't even on site. He wasn't working in the building. He wasn't anything like that. We just said, hey, we think this is a cool idea. Go figure it out. And so he went on his own to go figure that out. And then the assistant worked with us for a long time. And then when he wasn't here anymore, I think it was almost a year after the assistant had chosen to do whatever he wanted to do. Then we were like, okay, we'll bring LaQuoya back to help, because at this point there's no conflict anymore. So that's really what it was. It was no, oh, we're gonna go hide LaQuoya over here, and even now LaQuoya doesn't work for us anymore.
This was one of Dogpack's allegations that were frankly not really false. They were later confirmed to be basically true.
And there's so much behind the scenes with sexual assault, with abusing employees. He's guilty of all of those.
Did you know about LaQuoya Hill, or have you met LaQuoya or worked?
Oh, I very much worked with LaQuoya to the point where, I don't know if you saw my tweet the other day, but after that video came out, after Dogpack's video came out about LaQuoya, all of those memories just rushed back to me, and I was just like, oh my God, he was kicked out of the company because of sexual assault.
This was made pretty clear by Kara, Jimmy's hiring manager, who ended up being interviewed by Soggy Cereal, and revealed some key details about the situation, basically reiterating the basic timeline that Dogpack was able to build from the start. Kara, whatever you want to call her, we're going to call her Car. We're going to call her Mitsubishi Evo Lancer. Ooh. She says that the victim felt really uncomfortable around LaQuoya and actively avoided his presence, which could have been an indication that something serious had occurred. But ultimately, the employee did not want LaQuoya to be fired, so LaQuoya was moved to a different company. Once that employee left, LaQuoya was invited back to MrBeast proper.
And he was like, yeah, I don't necessarily want him to be fired, but I don't want to be around him. I don't want to see him. It's just really uncomfortable for me, So we're like, okay, great. So I actually worked with him to come up with a list of jobs that he wanted, because again, if the person who he's assisting is not here, it's okay, well, now what's your job? So it was we came up with everything he was interested in, what he wanted to do and stuff like that, and moved him into a different role.
And she also corroborated Dogpack's story by confirming that the MrBeast company responded to this issue by, like I said, relocating LaQuoya to an off-site role and then bringing him back later. Now, additionally, Kara claims that LaQuoya doesn't work for us anymore, and further confirmation of that came from former MrBeast editor Trey Yates in an interview with The Asher Show. Yates claims that in July 2021, it was officially announced that LaQuoya was taking family leave from the company due to his position as COO. However, Yates revealed that a MrBeast employee, in his words possibly Ava or Carl, confided in him that the real reason LaQuoya was being moved around was because he was caught sexually assaulting an assistant.
It was announced in the company that LaQuoya was taking a family leave, and that family leave occurred for a month. And then someone messaged me, and I don't remember if it was Ava, I don't remember if it was Carl or someone, but someone messaged me and they gave me the tip of, hey, LaQuoya's not been on family leave for a month. He got caught sexually assaulting his assistant. And I was like, what the fuck?
Wow.
He took his leave July, and then it was confirmed that that happened in August of 2021.
Now, Yates reiterated that LaQuoya's departure was directly tied to the sexual assault incident, which aligns with Kara's account of him no longer being employed there. So it seems to me like there is some kind of clear, lining up with the story between what Dogpack said and what MrBeast said, and what was said by MrBeast employees. But in regards to James Warren, who was the CEO of the Beast Company at one point in time, this was the guy that Dogpack accused of beating his girlfriend and said that there were charges against him, and then later had to walk it back because there were no charges, and he removed that video. But James Warren was not really mentioned in this video at all either, and even though there was no proof from the beginning that James Warren had done anything wrong, in terms of what Dogpack claimed at least, I still frankly would have liked to see some kind of response from MrBeast here, because, you know, it would put to bed any questions that others have. Now it's time to get into stuff that could have been pushed back on a little bit more. We have to get into perhaps the most tragic part of this video, if there ever was one, because this is the stuff I was the most interested in, which is Chris Tyson, as well as the CoffeeZilla stuff. Jimmy does briefly discuss Chris and the connection to Shadman, as well as the Shadman poster. He claims that he didn't really have any idea what he was looking at. He didn't know it was some kind of weird thing. He didn't know it was like a lolly thing.
A thing that a lot of people care about is Shadman's a fucking freak and is a disgusting person. Did you know about the painting in? Did you know about that? Have you ever interacted with Shadman before? Like, what is your relation to that, and specifically that relationship between Shadman and Ava Tyson and you?
Yeah, no, that's actually a good follow-up question. So this is what it was like. I don't remember 7, 8 years ago. Back then, I used to have like a bunch of anime posters up on the wall. I'm just like set a foundation for context. We used to have a bunch of anime posters and things like that on our wall in the house. And one day, Ava put up this poster that was like an animated character holding a fidget spinner and a gun. Admittedly, it was a weird image. I didn't know who made it. You know, I just kind of assumed it was a meme. I obviously did not know who Shadman was. I've never spoken with Shadman. I did not buy the poster or commission it or anything.
The problem here is that Oompaville didn't ask what, frankly, I haven't seen a lot of other people ask this either, so I'll give him a little bit of a pass here because a lot of people don't even know this, but a lot of people don't know that Chris Tyson was friends with a known sex offender Delaware before Delaware got hired.
Charles was friends with Chris back in 2010, and they worked at Best Buy together for the next half a decade. This is actually how he got hired by MrBeast. When Jimmy's channel took off, he always went to that store as Chris's old pal prioritized the YouTuber.
Never watched, you need to, it's awesome. Everything they do is for a great cause. MrBeast, want my free shirt.
It wasn't until an altercation with their previous manager that they ended up hiring him in early 2018.
So this is still a burning question in my mind, and it really sucks that this wasn't, you know, really fleshed out in detail. Honestly, in regards to Chris Tyson in general, they barely went into any detail about the situation with him, and I wish he had gone into that a lot more, because obviously to this day we don't have definitive proof that Jimmy knew 1000% that Chris was some kind of degenerate gooner talking to kids on Discord. You know, we don't really have proof that Jimmy knew that something inappropriate was going on there, but at the same time, we don't really have any real response from MrBeast here either, so it's just kind of left up in limbo for what people want to decide, right? For what people want to believe. If you want to believe that there's no way Jimmy could have not known who Shadman was, considering that Chris was his longtime friend, Chris was clearly a big fan of Shadman, and there was a poster on the wall, I don't feel like I can really blame you for thinking that, because it does look fucking weird, right? But at the same time, I don't have definitive proof of the fact that Jimmy knew, right? Jimmy knew, I don't have definitive proof of that, and the most recent explanation posted by Rosanna Pansino and Dogpack404 ultimately turned out to be completely bullshit and a very slanderous video where they claimed that that was the smoking gun that Jimmy knew, and then they just like reviewed a meme group chat as if it was dead to rights evidence that Jimmy knew what was going on here. So realistically speaking, there was no real solace for me there in terms of the Chris stuff. I didn't really get any more detail that I didn't already have. Now, in regards to the cryptocurrency scam allegations, which was covered recently in the CoffeeZilla video, Jimmy essentially claims that he did not control the wallet that was associated with CryptoPunks, and he didn't know what Wu-Tang was. Wu-Tang being the name of the wallet because the people running it were like a fan of the Wu-Tang Clan. Now, the problem with this to me is that he had been on the podcast with Logan Paul earlier talking about how Gary Vee put him in a call and discussed NFTs and this new epic thing that he just had to buy because it was going to go to the moon. Like, it looks to me like he knew more than he's really letting on here, and this is his response.
These are good questions. Actually, I'm glad we're doing this follow-up thing so we can also just put all this stuff out there. So, yeah, I did say that on the podcast, and I obviously did not press the buttons like I've been saying. I didn't pick what punks to buy or anything. Gary Vee, like I said on that podcast, called me and a bunch of other people, said CryptoPunks were the next big thing. I thought it was pretty crazy, but, you know, the first thing I did right after that is just called the guy in charge of the fund who invested my money and it's other people's money as well, and just said, hey, Gary Vee, you seem very passionate about these punks. You should look into it. If it makes sense, buy it. And so, you know, he did the research, picked what punks to buy, bought them. I don't even truthfully know how to buy punks. I've never bought one, like me personally. Okay. Like I've said, I don't have access to that wallet. So, I mean, in other transparency, like that's kind of high level how it went. But, if he was like, oh, this is a shit investment, then he wouldn't have bought him. So, he was the one who was doing the buying and selling and managing things.
He had also tweeted a reply to a crypto account with a crazy emoji. And as a result, Oompaville ended up asking him why he had not disclosed that he had invested in this NFT and going a little bit further into these questions.
Well, I replied to the tweet, so I didn't tweet it out. And I think a lot of people, that are just getting second hands of the story think I literally tweeted out, go buy super, go buy super. Yeah, the fund did hold some super, and I just saw that was the owner of super, the guy who made the coin, and I just went scrolling through Twitter, just replied super to his tweet. I did not tell people to buy super or anything. I just replied super, and I know the next thing where people are going to go, but this was a planned, coordinated thing. It wasn't. It's not like I'm on the phone with the people managing the crypto fund going, hey, I'm about to reply super to this tweet. Like, I just was scrolling Twitter, and I replied super, and I highly doubt anyone bought it because they saw me reply super to a tweet. I mean, just to be honest. So I didn't think too much of it. Obviously, though, in hindsight, I could see how people might think that is a weird look optically, and so I wouldn't do it. But I really don't think it's that malicious. Like, if I just flat out tweeted, I think super is the next big thing. Go buy it. Super, super. Like, I think this is a different conversation. That's the kind of stuff actual people do. You know what I mean? And
scammers.
So I just don't. Yeah. So it was just interesting too because Coffee never said I was a scammer in his video. Yeah. There's so many comments on it. Just a lot of people just want to drive. Whatever. People who don't like me, like you said in the video, are not going to like me, and they're, going to run with it. People who do like me are going to be like, oh, it was managed by fund, and Jimmy has answers for everything, which, it's not excuses. I literally was just a fund. I was not the one buying or selling or anything. You know what I mean? I had other people managing it.
These are very, very vague answers, and once again, I would like to see more detail on that. There are still several questions surrounding the cryptocurrency case that I feel like Oompa could have pushed back a little bit more on here. Ultimately, I think maybe a good follow-up here would be that MrBeast would do an interview with CoffeeZilla. If he thinks he did nothing wrong, he could clear it up with him. I don't think CoffeeZilla has a vested interest in slandering anyone, let alone MrBeast. I think he just wants to know the truth. So I think if MrBeast wants to dispel the crypto stuff, he should be doing an actual interview with CoffeeZilla instead of talking to him through really condensed, refined statements from lawyers and his PR team. Now, overall, to wrap this up, I think that about 70 to 80% of this interview is really good. And I do think that Oompaville did the best he possibly could in terms of prep within the 24-hour period he was given. Essentially, I think MrBeast said he wanted to do the interview 24 hours before. He flew to Oompaville's house, they filmed it, and then 48 hours after that, the interview was out. So that is a pretty short amount of prep time, and they did cover a lot of ground for that and answer a lot of questions that I wanted to see answered. But ultimately, a lot of what was covered was already covered in the Soggy Cereal video. And while we did get some good clarifications on some smaller points and even on the illegal lottery thing to get a response there was really big, I would still like to see some more explanation for the Chris Tyson stuff, for example. Some people are saying they're a bit disappointed that Oompa glazed too much. I can see why people would want him to be less jokey and friendly and be more calculated, like some kind of Charlie Rose interview. But again, he was given a one-day heads up to prep interviewing the biggest YouTuber of all time about the biggest drama of all time. So I can't fault him too much. I do have some sympathy for that scenario. It's a big task. But as I said before, I still do wish that there was a little bit more pushback when it came to Chris Tyson and the crypto stuff. I feel like there are still questions unanswered there that I want to see answered. And frankly, it's kind of unfortunate that it might take another statement or another interview or two to get clarifications on that with people like, let's say Mudahar. Mudahar would be a good guy to go to for some of the Shadman stuff because he obviously has, knowledge of it. He's talked about it on his channel. He'd be a good pick for that. I think in regards to the crypto stuff, CoffeeZilla is the best guy to handle that interview if he was going to do one. I also do think that Oompa could have pushed back a bit more on the Amazon lawsuit and Beast Games accusations, but it could be the case simply that MrBeast wouldn't have elaborated on it too much more because there is an ongoing legal battle, and the evidence we've seen so far is ultimately a he said, she said scenario, so we don't have definitive proof of anything. Altogether, though, I think this interview was a net positive, especially with the document link below with some of the evidence in here. That was very compelling. That was good to see. But there are still a few questions unanswered, and I don't know if we're going to get those answered. And I think that the best way to do that would be for MrBeast to talk to CoffeeZilla or someone like that. For now, all we can really do is wait to see if MrBeast ends up suing Dogpack and see if Dogpack ends up responding to this, and maybe he'll somehow flip the situation on its head again. Kind of have my doubts about that, but there's been enough twists and turns in this entire thing that who fucking knows, right? Once again, at the end of this interview, I'm kind of left with the conclusion I came to at the end of my last video, which is that there's really no heroes, there's no villains, there's just a world of complicated people out there, and a lot of the claims made about MrBeast were completely false. Some of them were seemingly true, some of them are still up in the air, and that's ultimately where we're at. In a world of Edgers, Gooners, and Chris Tysons, you got to pick the one you want to be. Anyway, that's about it for today. See you in tomorrow's video. Why'd I wink? Bye.
Call me MrBeast, I fuck her, then I leave. Young bass guy, bitch, my swag off the meter. Out